everyone. Thank you for coming here and to be present, assisting to our conference. And this conference will speak about artificial intelligence in upskilling and reskilling. It's three concepts: artificial intelligence, upskilling, reskilling, but that even to its definition, it's not well defined, and even the definition will have to be developed and to be discussed. So there's a lot to discuss today. There is something that we want to develop that, and we want to discuss about artificial intelligence. Yeah, we think about machines and we think about satellites. We will speak about that today, but we are trying to bring that to something that is very human related, upskilling and reskilling. And this maybe it could be even a little bit more. Maybe we'll have something more to discuss about that, and something more to relate it with the panel and with people that will be with us. So my colleague Mara, that were here in the previous panel, gave us some numbers about 75 million jobs that will be displaced, and 133 million jobs that will come in with the digitalization of economy, with the digitalization of the jobs. But one thing we are sure, those 75 million jobs that will be displaced, we already have it, they already exist. The 133 millions that will rise up, we don't have them, and we don't have their competences, and we don't have the competences to fulfill that jobs. So with me, I will have Paulo Rosa. Paulo Rosa is the head of GNC AOCS Competence Center of DEIMOS. DEIMOS, a space company, a big space company, a very important space company in the Portuguese cluster. Paulo, please come with me, come here. Then we have Sérgio Oliveira, that is a former Portuguese cluster manager, European Aerospace Cluster Partnership founder, and European Aerospace Cluster Partnership Skills Working Group leader. So thank you. We'll have in presence Paulo and Sérgio, and then we'll have our two guests that are away from us, but very close online, that we'll have Przemek Berendt. I hope that I said it well. Hi, Przemek. Nice to see you.
Likewise. Hello. Thank you for having me.
Przemek is the CEO of Talent Alpha, and Talent Alpha, Przemek will tell us a little bit about their solution in artificial intelligence applied to human resources. And then we'll have Susana Sargento from Aveiro University. Thank you, Susana, for being here with us.
Thank you for the invitation. Hello.
Hello. And she will talk about us. She will explain us the approach of education, of the academy, about this subject. So, gentlemen, sit, please.
Thank you.
Thank you. Paulo, as I said, we are talking about three concepts: artificial intelligence, upskilling, reskilling, even its definition. There's much to talk about that. So please tell us, explain us a little bit more about artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
Let's start with that.
Okay, sure. Okay, so well, first of all, thank you for the invitation, for being here today. So I would start probably by, let's say, focusing more on some specific within AI that's called machine learning. Because AI is sort of a bit scary, because when we think of AI, we can think of, like machines that want to take over the human race, and that can somehow become, independent When you think of machine learning, which is, let's say, well, it's debatable, but it's considered by many as sort of a field within AI, and it's the one that, I mean, when we talk about AI, we were always referring to machine learning. I think that gives a bit more intuition because it is related to learning. We just have like a machine or an algorithm that learns from the data, from the information that you provide to it. And I think that is a little bit, let's say, less scary. And learning, I mean, when we think of learning for a machine, it's basically, I mean, and let's say I'm just trying to find a simple word, or simple concept, it's basically pattern recognition. So we are looking for, ways of recognizing patterns in what we see or what we hear, which is something that the humans can do quite well. So humans can, you can see something that has, is round, has two eyes, a nose, and a mouth, and you know that it is a face. So humans can do that very well, and we can even look at, we can look at a cloud, and you can see, oh, this has the shape of a cat, for instance. You know it's not a cat because you have more information. You know it's, well, it's in the sky, it's white, so it's definitely not a cat, but it has, you can think of that as having some resemblance with a cat. So I think it's on that side that when we talk about artificial intelligence, that it's to those kind of things that we are sort of referring to.
So, but explain us a little bit more concretely, how do you in space sector, do you apply machine learning, artificial intelligence?
Yeah.
Do you have any concrete project that you can explain?
Yes, for sure. I mean, and here in Portugal, we actually have many projects that already use artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence, I mean, it has been developed in the last several decades, so it's not something that just happened last year. But the fact is that with the appearance of sort of open source tools and libraries and let's say the kind of making it very easy for everyone to implement, for instance, a neural network, which is one way of implementing machine learning, that basically opened a whole new world of applications that we see nowadays. And that happened also in space. I mean, in space we've been using artificial intelligence or machine learning, especially in Earth observation, for many years now. And Earth observation means having a satellite that takes images, photographs from the Earth, and then it downloads, so it transmits the data to ground, and then on ground we have typically a big computer, or we can do it in the cloud, and what we do is we try to identify patterns. So like we want to see if there is like a fire, for instance, or if there is a flood, or I mean, we want to provide information for agriculture. So all of that can be done, and it has been done for many years now on ground. Yeah. And it does provide quite valuable information in an automated manner, and that's the good thing. So you basically can just throw a bunch of images to a computer and say that this is a fire, this is not a fire, this is a fire, this is not a fire, and after a while the computer learns what is a fire and what is not a fire by itself. So you don't need to kind of think of very fancy algorithms, which would be, let's say, the classical solution, which is to say, I don't know, a fire is something that should have this sort of kind of tones or colors. It should be this size and this kind of, so it's very hard. If you think of how to characterize a fire, it's a bit, in an image, it's a bit hard to do it. Yeah. But if you do it with machine learning, it's very, very easy. Yeah. There are even other methods that allow you to kind of sort of split sets of data. Like you just put there a big set of data. You don't say what is a fire, what is not a fire, and there are algorithms that can still separate that by themselves, which is called unsupervised learning. So that we've been using many times, including here in Portugal, and DEIMOS has been doing that for many years now. But I mean, the big advantage of this is automation. So the question is, why are we not using this on board satellites? Because autonomy is sort of the key thing for a satellite. I mean, or a satellite or any space vehicle. Like if you have a rover on Mars, you want to make sure that if there is like a crater, it avoids the crater, or it avoids a rock, or it maintains the solar panels illuminated, because otherwise you run out of battery. And you want the rover to be able to take those decisions, or at least, let's say, a big part of those decisions by itself. So why are we not using that more? And the fact is, well, first of all, yes, we are now using it. So there are already some examples of that. But it's still in early days. And the reason is because of let's say, two difficulties in my view. So the first one is the hardware part. So machine learning tends to be heavy, and we can run it in our computer. I mean, we can run it even in our smartphone. But the onboard computers of satellites are typically not that powerful. So that's the first constraint. But there are now already solutions, and there will be many more in the years to come, that are specifically tailored, for instance, to run neural networks, evolution neural networks. So that hardware part is let's say, is being solved. The other important part is that when we think about systems like GNC, so guidance, navigation, control, which is sort of the autopilot of a satellite or of a rover, then we think of systems that are what we call safety critical, which means that if for some reason they fail, then you may have a problem, because I mean, if it's something that flies with humans, so if it's a human flight, you can lose lives. Or, I mean, even if you don't lose lives, you can lose the whole mission. If you have a rover in Mars, and it just makes the wrong decision, then you lose the mission, and that tends to cost quite a lot. And because of that, we tended to avoid those kind of algorithms so far, because they are very hard to verify, to make sure that they will work the way we designed them to work. And for that, there have also been solutions appearing recently. And I mean, one of the solutions that it's used, for instance, I mean, if you think, for instance, of you know, the Google cars, so the Google autopilots and so on, or Tesla, what they do is they just put a bunch of cars with a sort of a backup driver, and they let the car drive by itself for millions of kilometers and thousands of hours. And at some point, you say that this actually works, because I mean, I've shown that this works. For a space application, you cannot do that, because you cannot launch 10 satellites and then hope that one of them will work, because it's way too expensive. So we need to look at other solutions, and they have been appearing. So those solutions include things like explainable AI, which is sort of means to kind of describe in a way that you can understand, that the human can understand what the neural network is doing, if it's a neural network. So it's not just a black box, it's something more. And so that has been applied. We've been applying that in projects like, I mean, projects where we are looking, for instance, at debris in space. And Portugal, not just DEIMOS, but Portugal as a whole has been investing quite a lot on this, which is a key topic nowadays, because I mean, there are certain orbits in space that are so crowded with debris, with leftovers from launchers, with satellites that are not working. More than half of the satellites in orbit are no longer working, and they pose a danger to other missions. And so just to finish, so just to say that one example of a mission in which we do that is exactly for computer vision in those kind of missions. So if you have a satellite that you launch to grab another one, and then to let's say, to the orbit both, then if you do that, you need at some point to know where you are with respect to your target debris. And to do that, one way is to use a camera, and to have a camera that has its own, let's say, onboard computer that is able to look at the satellite, recognize that this is the satellite or the debris, the leftover that I want to grab, and this is the distance to the target, and this is my relative orientation to the target, and so on, so that you grab it in the proper way. So this is currently done for missions. It is currently done in Portugal, and it's just one of the examples where AI is starting to be used in what we call safety critical systems.
Thank you, Paul. You gave us a huge and very good explanation about AI, machine learning, but I'll take one lead that you raised to talk with Susana. That is, you talked about human perception, and so ask to Susana, and I will take this lead about human perception, because I have to lead this conversation to you, upskilling, reskilling, but yeah, it is really, really good to know about machine learning, to know about how the space uses machine learning and AI, but how about human perception? And Susana, the World Economic Forum is really focusing the education and using AI in education. But do you have, Paulo as well spoke about patterns, and I believe that it's difficult to identify patterns in your students, but as well, but how do you prepare your students to use AI, to understand AI, to have a better human perception, and how do you use, or if you use AI in your teaching?
Yes. So there are, in the university, there are different things. So we have courses, and courses that are completely related to AI. So they are teaching AI to students. And these are several courses that go from the tree-based decisions to machine learning, to supervised and unsupervised learning. So we have them for the students. And actually, we haven't, not only in Aveiro, but in several masters, the data science masters. They also open now this year, because there is this all trained on AI, on how to use the data, machine learning in all these areas. And yes, Paulo started and referred the area of space, referred the area of autonomous vehicles. But there are really many areas where we are able to use AI. So these are I would say, the main the main ways to involve students in AI. So then there are some others that we can somehow help them on using these concepts. So, for example, here in Aveiro, we deployed a network around the city that is with video cameras, with lidars, radars, and also with the communication capabilities, is monitoring the people, is monitoring bicycles, is monitoring cars, the different types of cars in different areas of the city. So it's able to understand the mobility, the patterns of mobility of the several elements in the city. So if you have one place, or if you have something where you will be able to get all this data, so this means that you have, beyond what you do in classes, you also have different works and in a real area where you can apply what you do in classes. So this means that beyond the normal classes, you can have projects, and projects that deal directly with companies, that deal directly with the municipality, and that deal directly with this data for the students to be able to really apply those concepts. Mm-hmm. So I would say that there are different ways. So we have the classes, of course, and this is where they learn these concepts. But it's very, very important to apply these concepts to the outside world. So another example is the use of drones. So you were referring, so it was important from the space to be able to understand what is happening in the ground. So this is another example where with technology that we provide in the university, we are able to give all this data to the students, and these students can be the ones that are there with the drones and are the same ones that are monitoring the different areas to be able to use this AI. So I would say that the interaction with companies and the interaction with the municipality and the real deployments that we can have in the city, in the different environments, are very, very important for the students, not only from one university, but from the different universities around the world, to be able to use this data which is anonymized, of course, and to be able to work with this data to provide trends, to understand the trends, to provide the trends, and to be able also, I think this is very interesting for them, is to be able also to provide services and applications with this data, and with the trends that they can expect on this data.
Thank you, Susana. So, Przemek, I have here three main words: patterns, data, machine learning. So, and the primarily data for upskilling, reskilling are competences, identifying competences. So, I know that you have a solution for not for the aerospace sector, mainly for the IT sector, but of course very linked to our sector. How do you tell us a little bit more about your solution, and how do you integrate your algorithm? How do you develop your algorithm to work in this data of human resource, to work with competences?
Sure. Thank you for having me once again. My name is Przemek Berendt, the CEO and founder of Talent Alpha. We are an HR tech startup out of Krakow, Poland, where I'm joining you from. And we are building a solution that is in fact helping organizations to better understand the technical talent they have on board. So we are solely focused, as you mentioned, Carlos, on IT talent. But the core of our solution really is about identifying the skills individuals has and then using that data to derive conclusions and applying it in a different context. So this entire question or domain that you just asked starts with actually a taxonomy of skills and competencies, right? Which is where we invested quite a lot of time trying to identify the different skills that are available in the IT domain. And this is probably one of the most complex domains of job families out there, and the one that is changing the most frequently. You know, every other year there are a number of new technologies that are coming to the market, becoming more popular, and understanding how they are interlinked and how they are interlinked in different contexts, which is making this taxonomy available in the different settings, is crucial, so we can actually start the data collection, right? So this is where we started our journey. We said, okay, let's see if we can learn how much we can learn about the IT market. We did it by actually analyzing the available data sets out there. So parsing, for example, job descriptions on company portals. We were looking also into other sources where we could start looking for patterns on how certain IT keywords are related with one another. As a result of that, what we have as a starting point is a taxonomy with nearly 4,000 unique IT skills and a really detailed understanding of how they might be interlinked kind of in the graph with one another in the different contexts of the IT domain. Then the second issue that we are trying to tackle is how then we can collect data to identify what skill one might possess, right? And not only to identify whether they actually have that skill, but see if we could capture some additional data points about that given competence. And we do it by a number of means. Some of them involve machine learning and AI, with something as basic as being able to parse someone's CV or LinkedIn profile and identify some of those keywords that were listed there. But we take it farther when we then let the algorithms to actually start asking questions to those individuals to have them self-assess themselves about a given competence. So not only the platform is able to identify whether I claim I have, for example, Java and React or JavaScript capability, but then the system is already asking me to self-evaluate myself to what level I mastered that given competence. We go way farther when we are asking also the managers of these individuals to assess these skills. So we are capturing, like a third-party opinion where we have capability to validate some of that knowledge with more academic tools. And all of that is loaded into our unique and proprietary data model that we call the Talent Genome. Talent Genome is, think about it as a LinkedIn profile on steroids, right? Where we are capturing hundreds and hundreds of data points about every single individual, where we are capturing also additional insights on how much we've learned about to what extent they've mastered a given capability. We are not only looking at the talent genome and the technical skills, but we take it beyond that, where we are trying to identify also psychometric capabilities by actually using a game that is embedded into our platform, where we can measure certain cognitive traits such as working memory, perceptual speed, or ability to switch tasks. So really measure someone's kind of the way their brain works and the brain is wired, but also looking and identifying, for some of their soft skills, using a tool called Creative Behavior Questionnaire, where using a scientifically proven method, we can determine whether one individual is more of a creative or a heuristic thinker, and closing it with identifying personality traits, where we are using a big 5 personality traits. And all of this data collected then allows us to do what the speaker spoke about before, which is start looking for patterns and then leveraging that data for the in-depth analysis. And the way we do that is that we are working with organizations where we first start by mapping the organization using the features that I just mentioned. So we build a kind of very detailed digital map of capabilities that are available in that organization. And then using that data, we define and build a digital model of what we call the dream candidate. So if this organization was looking to hire a single person, what would be the definition of this person's talent genome if we were to hire this person? And then we use algorithms to analyze, thousands of these data points across thousands of profiles that we have within our solution to find the closest match to that dream candidate. And again, here we are using fairly sophisticated AI and machine learning techniques. We created our own model called Skill2Vec, where all of those data that I've mentioned is being basically described in the digital space as vectors placed in the multidimensional space. And then we are using an algorithm called TSNE algorithm to help us find proximity between that dream candidate and the data that we collected.
Thank you, Przemek. Really, I have to say I already saw this, the solution of Talent Alpha working, and it's really awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Sérgio, yeah, we're talking about patterns, machine learning, data collection, but Przemek as well raised up the context. And the companies are in their own context. So as an SME representative, as a cluster expert and SME representative, tell us about the context of the companies in upskilling, reskilling, as well in artificial intelligence. Tell us what do you feel about that?
Yeah, it's kind of, thank you for the question, but as a disclaimer, I'm way behind you all in what AI is related. So I have the context of the companies due to the fact that I deal with the clusters of aerospace and defense across Europe, and in particular with the subject of skills. Risking myself or trying to do a role play of being a company, this is all very nice and pretty, but I have trouble understanding as a company, what are the concepts, what are the advantages, how do I apply AI, or even if AI is applicable to me or not. And I'm risking speaking for the majority of the companies. So, of course, a change is in order. If the change will be disruptive or incremental, I don't know. Most of the companies will try to change, in my perspective, in an incremental way. I'm really glad that the tools, that you guys are creating the tools necessary for those interfaces between the needs and the technology to be created. Because dealing with more than 6,000 companies across European clusters, most of them are quite worried about the fact that they have to change something. They have trouble identifying what they do have to change. Of course, human resources, skills, talent, and the management of all these concepts is nowadays something that is in order, and they understand now that there are changes necessary for the performance of their companies to be altered by moving with those factors. When we speak to the majority of companies and talk about skilling, reskilling, upskilling, or something of the sort, normally what I see is their eyes glaze. They look at you like you're talking another language, and they need the translation. And you, in my perspective, what you guys are providing is the necessary tools to transform the needs into something translatable to the reality. So you have the reality on one side, the need to change, and there's a parallel, as up to me, of what we talked some years ago about the digitalization of the economy and Industry 4.0 and all that, which at a certain stage was all and nothing. So it's everything and nothing at the same time. And these concepts, when and the aspect of dealing with human resource and the needed changes that you have to implement in a company, they're, in my perspective, too far away still. And you guys are creating the tools to bring them together, which are paramount to the development of the companies. Because at the end of the day, I have to have a performant company to be able to change something.
Yeah.
I have to have a company working to be able to think about reskilling and upskilling, which, by the way, are concepts that existed before and are being altered in name of some
Training.
change of mind.
Yeah.
So it's not training anymore, it's not changing the aspect of giving specific training to change the sector. Now it's reskilling, it's not specific training to implement the skills that I already have, it's now upskilling. Good, I don't have any problem with a change of concept. The companies do. The companies do not understand and I'm going to be mean, you guys of the human resources are talking about. So it's all nice, new buzzwords, brilliant, and now they bring AI to the middle of this. And I saw some movies about AI, and it's not good. And so this is the general concept, or this is how companies receive the information of, okay, I joined some concepts that I don't understand what it is, put AI in, by the way, it's a bad thing, AI in the middle, so which is not. And so it's rather important to transform this into something that it's close to the problems that companies do have to solve every day.
Yeah, that's
Because otherwise you're talking, okay, we need to colonize Mars, and the guy is just thinking, I need to pay salaries next month.
yeah,
So it's a world apart.
yeah,
And it's rather important to close the gap and make this language understandable, and more than that, more than making it understandable, to transfer it to performance gains on a company. What do I gain from that? Because otherwise it serves
that's
for
something
nothing.
that we
Sorry
want.
for the
No, that's good.
informal
No,
aspect.
that's
of
good.
this.
That's something that we want, and the subject of this panel, it was for that, to try to translate these three
There's a long way to go there.
three concepts that even the concept is not even completely defined. So, but it is rather important. Paulo and Susana, please give me just short answers, please. Paulo, what do you expect? Give me 2-3 competences that you expect that to upskill or reskill in your company or in people that you work with. And Susana, 2-3 competences that you can add AI to develop to develop in your students. Please, to short answers, please, that we run out of time.
I'll say very quickly on that. I mean, I think that we're sort of seeing now this transformation happening. And when it comes to the use of things like AI and machine learning in companies like in space, as a bit what you were saying before is that before there was absolutely no way that we could use, for instance, AI in whatever is safety critical elements, and now everything needs to be done with AI. So there's something in between that's probably the best solution, but so as we use many other tools today to do our work, and by tools I mean also mathematical tools, for instance. I think that probably the most stable point is that we reach some kind of compromise with the use of AI, where AI is also a tool that we naturally use to many different applications, and we have it there. It's in our background. We can use that tool the same way we use any of our mathematical tools, the same way we use, you know, our software tools to solve the problems when we see that this problem can be solved with Excel or can be solved with MATLAB. So that would be probably the
Susana,
one way.
how do you think to use that tool to help to develop competences in your students?
Well, so it's very interesting. So I will be short, but it's very interesting because from one side, students don't like math, so they try to avoid math. But from the other side, if you talk about AI, so students are there. So I think that maybe I won't talk about many competences, but one of the good things that happened was that instantly math is important to be able to use AI. So these math competencies, they can really be improved in the students to be able to work in AI, because in AI is not only apply the algorithms, it's to understand how they are being applied to be able to configure them in a good way. So I would say that math is one of them. So database, cloud, so all these kind of areas are very, very important, and there are some of the competencies that are very, very important for students to be able to join this world.
Thank you. Przemek, you already have a tool. So what do you think that companies, when you approach your clients, what do you think that companies expect from you?
Well, I would actually subscribe to the comment before that they are looking for a solution to a problem. You know, this kind of future discussion that we are talking to them, they get it. Yes, some of them are really excited about it, but they are looking for something that could solve their problem today. And one of the problems where we come with help is we're really kind of inventorying the capabilities that the organization has at any given point in time, which is something that we find many companies out there struggle. They don't even know what their starting point for their reskilling and upskilling is, right? And this is what we are capable of helping them to begin with.
Thank you, Przemek. And Sérgio, the same question in the other way. What do you expect from solutions providers? What do companies expect from solutions providers in HR applying AI in upskilling and reskilling?
From the perspective of a company and trying to be as simple as I can be, I really don't care what tool the HR, talent management, career orientation or whatever uses to get to the bottom of this, to get to the end, to get the result. If I think that AI is a valid tool, for sure, it should be used. It's incredible learning and managing big data and learning patterns, as you said. So it's extremely useful. As a company, I really don't care if you use it or not. I do want the results. I do want, and frankly, if it is successful, the implementation of it, I will not see it because it's an under layer of information that it's managed by something that can be in the realm of magic to me. Frankly, I don't care. What I do think it will be extremely helpful is on easing the pattern identification again and the quantity of information that we are able to manage and what talent is related. So it's not treating things, it's not treating people as a mathematical algorithm, but it's easing the aspects of managing all of that. One of the things that I didn't refer or I didn't mention, it's fundamental in my perspective to assess the company that you guys are dealing with and assess the needs prior to any solution of reskilling or upskilling or any of the sorts, because they might not be necessary. I consider them tools to the performance enhancement of a company, and they exist already. So use them carefully, and help the companies do this transition, and as close to the problem they are. And frankly, Przemek has probably mentioned something that the companies want him to help solve the problem, which is basically it. I have something and I need a solution to it. Frankly, if it's magical or not, I don't care.
Thank you, Sérgio. Okay, maybe this is magic. We don't know, but thank you very much. We already run out of time. It is really something that we would like to follow with this discussion. This is just a kickoff for us to follow with this discussion, because we had so many questions to put, but we don't have time. But we will for sure continue to give you some news about this. In my personal opinion, if you allow me, AI will be for sure a tool to use to upskilling and reskilling. But of course, upskilling and reskilling will always be to work with humans, for humans, and we will use it. This tool, if it is magic, if it is math, whatever, we don't know. We just want to use it to give results. That is a very powerful solution that we shouldn't take out. So I will, to finish, I will just give, there's a big project in aerospace sector that is called Pact for Skills, that is identifying the big cluster competences that till 2030 the aerospace sector will have to develop and will have to integrate in the companies. And of course, cybersecurity, data analytics, modelization-based system engineering, high-performance computing, circular economy, carbon neutrality, behavioral skills, and last but not least, artificial intelligence. So it is something that will be on spot for sure in next years. It is already on spot and will be for sure more on spot in next years. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.